Hi, my name is Alex Marcus, and welcome to my video series on how to play the violin without a shoulder rest. I first started getting interested in playing without a shoulder rest a few years ago. When I was 27, I had to stop playing because I was experiencing such sharp pains in my fingertips and in my elbow that it was virtually impossible for me to play for more than 15 minutes at a time. And this was heartbreaking for me. I tried yoga, I tried physical therapy, but nothing I did seemed to work. And so I had to stop playing for a number of years. In the past few years, I've started reading up on message boards about the idea that tension and pain might be related to using the shoulder rest. And I was very surprised and inspired when I started watching YouTube videos of the great masters of the 20th century. And what I found was that virtually none of them used shoulder rests. Jascha Heifetz, David Nadian, Yehudi Menuhin, Zeno Francescatti, Itzhak Perlman, Michael Rabin, Nathan Milstein. The list just goes on and on. Virtually none of the great masters of the 20th century used a shoulder rest. And so I started to wonder if maybe using the shoulder rest was contributing to this problem that I was having with tendonitis and pain. So I approached a number of different teachers, and in the last couple of years I've found a couple of teachers who understand this art of playing without the shoulder rest thoroughly. And my purpose in creating this series of videos is to share this information with the world, because as I was looking for accurate and complete information on the internet, it seemed like it was very difficult to come by. In fact, I can't say that I found any really useful information. Lots of hints and people sort of pointing in the right direction, but no explicit instructions that really broke down how to do it and how to deal with the challenges that arise, particularly as a player who learned how to play the violin with a shoulder rest, moving to playing without the shoulder rest. Since I've learned to play without the shoulder rest, I'm very happy to report that I have virtually no problems with tension or pain. I can play for many hours at a time and with absolutely no discomfort whatsoever. And I attribute that directly to learning how to play without the shoulder rest. It is possible to play the violin with the shoulder rest and without pain. But the thing about learning to play the violin without the shoulder rest is that it forces you to develop a sense of body awareness that you don't have to develop when you learn with a shoulder rest. And Hilary Hahn, Joshua Bell, Shlomo Mintz come to mind as great artists, master violinists who play with the shoulder rest. But I think that there are so many people who are suffering from tension and pain problems, amateurs to professional orchestra members, that it really is important to figure out what can be gained from relearning how to play the instrument without the shoulder rest. So when you are using a shoulder rest, there are things that you can do that you simply cannot do without one. For example, you can use arm vibrato, and you can jump around the fingerboard. Ricci describes this as playing the violin like a trombone. People will shift from one position to the next using their vision and just sort of hopping around. You can't hop around like that if you're not using a shoulder rest. If you try to hop around, you'll drop the instrument, right? So learning how to shift and vibrate correctly and tuning into your body, developing the body awareness necessary to do those things without a shoulder rest will in itself ensure that you don't have the kind of problems with tension and pain that you can have when you don't have that body awareness because you had the help of a shoulder rest. Many have asked me why the shoulder rest is so popular if it can be the source of so many problems and so many of the masters of the 20th century didn't use them. I think it has something to do with it being much more difficult to teach children to play the violin without a shoulder rest. It requires much more attention to body awareness, and that is something that is not easy to convey in words. So a lot of teachers nowadays have learned with a shoulder rest themselves, and so they may not know how to teach how to play the violin without one. But also it's just generally easier to teach the violin, at least in the beginning stages, until the student has developed aches and pains. Another reason for using the shoulder rest is I think, generally speaking, we've become increasingly sedentary over the last 100 years, and people just don't have the same sort of bodily awareness because we spend so much time in front of televisions and computer screens. And bodily awareness is what it takes to be able to play the violin without one. Before we continue, I'd like to share some clips with you that I've found that show great violinists playing without a shoulder rest. Usually when you watch a violin performance, the footage will be shot from this angle, so you'll get a great view of what's happening on the front of the instrument and in the left hand with the bow arm, but you won't typically see a violinist shot from this angle. So I hope you enjoy these videos. Here we see Oskar Shumsky, who was a student of Leopold Auer along with Jascha Heifetz and Misha Elman. And he is clearly supporting the violin in his left hand, and there's some contact between the head and the tip of the collarbone. But you see the instrument come off the shoulder. It's clearly not being clutched between the head and the shoulder at all. There we go. Very relaxed posture. Here we have Anna-Sophie Mutter. The great thing about watching videos of Anna-Sophie Mutter in particular is that she always wears shoulderless gowns, which allows us to see exactly what's going on in the collarbone and shoulder area. And you can see that there's a little bit of space in there. It's not touching the collarbone from a lot of these passages. And when it does, it's just gently touching. It's not being clenched between, there we go, it's just gently touching the bottom of the instrument. It's not being clenched between the shoulder and the head at all. Here's the Chinese violinist Chuan Yun Li and his teddy bear. He's playing Paganini, God Save the Queen variations. And here's a great shot of him from the left, and you see how the violin is hanging off the shoulder and not squeezed at all. And finally, here is a violinist named Katika Eleni, who also wears dresses that allow us to see what's going on in the shoulder and collarbone area. Clearly there is some turning in of the shoulder, but no upward squeezing. I hope you find this series of videos on how to play the violin without a shoulder rest useful. If you would like to contact me, I'd be happy to answer your questions via email, and I'm also available on Skype or in person in the New York City area. More information on those services is available on my website, alexmarcus.com. Thank you and enjoy.